All right, hello everyone. You're watching You Got It with Warrior Woman 91. As you can see, my background's a little different. I'm actually recording this intro uh, while the power's out on my laptop on battery power, so it's a little bit different. But we do have a little bit of a different kind of an episode for you today. Jacob Aria and I did a crossover episode, so if you haven't already watched this episode on Jacob's channel, this is the first time you will see it on this channel. We talked about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we talked about the Star Wars trailer, our reactions, leaks that we've heard about the new Star Wars movie. It was really exciting, so hope you guys enjoy this episode, and I'm looking forward to collaborating with other YouTubers. Alright, so I guess we'll just get started on the discussion. I know you wanted to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so if you want
Right.
to, and we also need to talk about Star Wars, so you go ahead and pick which one you want to start with.
Well, we'll start with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I just want to talk about how awful this last season was.
Yes.
It was, oh god. If they hadn't announced that the upcoming season is the final, I would have just stopped watching it.
Yeah.
Because I forced myself literally through it. Because I just wanted to see if it would pick up, because they do this thing where half the season, after season 2, they started this thing where half the season is bad and half of it is good.
Yeah.
This was all bad. I was so disappointed, and even my super cute wife was like, "Why are you watching the show? It's just making you angry." And it's so funny because I would have to watch Naruto reruns right afterwards just to get my spirit up.
Yeah.
But it was, I was so disappointed. I thought the character development was awful. The space thing got old after the first episode of the season. And the only part that I thought was interesting was when, okay, there will be spoilers, but I don't care because it was bad.
Yeah.
The only good part was when May killed Sarge, who has Coulson's face, but then it turned out it wasn't May.
Yeah.
And then they made this big deal about it couldn't have been May. May doesn't like guns. I'm like, did they not watch the first season of their own show? She was always shooting people in the first season. So,
people use guns in the second season.
Right. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was very poor quality, and you could tell that the writers just kind of gave up because they thought, I think they thought it was going to be the last season, and so they thought, let's just get our contracts finished. Like, that's really how it came off to me. Like, everyone was just phoning it in.
I mean, I felt like that at the end of season 5, because the last episode I think was called The End, and Coulson died for the how manyth time that he's died. But that, I think that they thought that was going to be the end, which is why they killed off Coulson. May finally had a relationship. They just ended a lot of things. There wasn't anywhere else to go, really. And then, oh no, we have a season 6. Oh no, we have a season 7. And now a season 7 is going to actually die. The sad thing is for me, and I just actually was watching the season finale of season 2, which I think is the best season finale that they ever had. I was just watching that, and I was like, why can't you bring that? That's like quintessential Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is the good stuff. This is the fun part. It's quirky. It's a little bit cheesy, but that's what the show is. And it's not all of this gobbledygook, like throw, spaghetti at the wall, hope it sticks. Like, I don't know. I just feel
You're
like
definitely Italian.
Yes. I agree with your point. It just feels like they're throwing things together and hoping that something good comes out of it. The show has just, I feel like it's gone downhill ever since probably season 2. It's had some high points that have drawn me back in, like the
season 4.
Yeah, season 4.
The main framework.
Yeah, the LMD/framework story arc, that was what brought me back in, because I stopped watching the show pretty much beginning of season 3 all the way through mid-season 4, and then I started watching the show specifically because they brought back the whole Hydra aspect, which is the gold mine for that show. That's the... Look at my hands going. I really am Italian. I'm either Italian or I've been watching too many Blair White videos, but... I just, why can't they just milk that until it dies, and then the show ends? So I guess my question for you is then, what do you think they're going to do in season 7 now that it's going to end?
Well, I honestly don't know, because one of the things that was interesting about the show, And I think also it was his greatest strength, but also its greatest weakness was it was tied with the storyline of the films, and they've made it abundantly clear from the first episode of season 6 that it was a multiverse. It was a different dimension created when Coulson died, or I should say, when Coulson died, instead of them saving him, it was a different timeline. And I actually think that's going to hurt the finale. Because I was thinking, instead of them going into space, what would have been more interesting, in my humble opinion, is if somehow, because the end of season 5, Coulson dies. It's called the end, like you said. Thanos. They mentioned Thanos very briefly, but they do mention him. What they should have done is Coulson, instead of dying, he was in Thanos' snap. And they should have had, and so this season should have been during that 5-year gap in between, from the beginning of Endgame to when the plot kicks in a little bit. They should have made season 6 in that. That would have been a fantastic story. And then the finale, the snap, it comes back and Coulson's back.
Yeah.
And then throughout the series, he could have just appeared like in holographic form or in flashbacks. I think that would have been a much more, and they should have just brought Fitz back. Forget the space stuff. Yeah. They should have just brought Fitz back for using a homing signal or something.
Yeah.
And then just done, because that would have been an amazing plot. Because then you could have brought back, what's their name, Lance and Bobby. That would have been, and they could have like maybe worked in Hawkeye somehow. I mean, he's working for pennies now after his last scandal. So, I mean, I don't know if you saw the trailer for the newest animated film he's in. It looks awful.
Oh, boy.
But, it's called Arctic Fox, I think. But I think that's what they should have done, because I don't like just to complain. I like to offer solutions. So maybe they'll do that. I don't think they're going to do that, but this season it felt like a cheat. Everything was a cheat. How they brought back Coulson was a cheat. How they resolved the plot was a cheat. How they brought Coulson back again was a cheat. I just feel like everything was they just cheated their way through the season. It didn't, that I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I don't know exactly.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that because the whole thing with Fitz was just so dumb. It was almost like you were replaying Simmons going out into space when she went to the planet. She was gone for 6 months. They were literally replaying that, and then they brought everybody back together by like episode 3, and so the stakes are gone when you do that. That's one of the complaints I had in season 3 when they had Simmons go off into space. They set it up with this fantastic story. She got swallowed up by that thing, and she's gone, and we don't know where she is, and then we realize she's on this planet somewhere, and it's so exciting, and then they get her back in episode 2, and then it's all about going back to rescue the man she fell in love with after 2 months of knowing him, and it was just the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And so that was why I stopped watching the show. I was like, you're not even like humoring me. You're not giving me what I want. Like I wanted her to be like gone for the whole half the season. Like they usually have half the season is one story and half the season is another story. I wanted her gone the whole half the season, and then the mid-season or the mid-season finale, that's when they get her back. That's what I wanted. But then they're like, no, we're gonna do things differently, and we're gonna subvert expectations by giving you nothing that you want. So.
Oh, and we have to mention 100 times that it's a multiverse. It's like, one thing is they keep teasing this multiverse thing, but then they do this is another thing, they do it as something to subvert it. So Spider-Man Far From Home, they hinted at that Mysterio was from, I can't remember the designation they gave it, but it's the universe where Spider-Man is British. That's the Earth he's from. And they call the movieverse Earth 616, which doesn't make sense to me because that's the comic book universe. But then they were like, oh no, he's not really from a different dimension. He's faking it. Yeah. And so I'm wondering if somehow they're going to do that, or if they're going to eventually. This is what I think is coming, is because I was looking up the reviews for it. It's not good, and the fan reactions have not been positive. So what I think they're going to explain is that where this is taking place, it's one of those. I don't know, for those of you who saw Endgame, the Ancient One makes the statement that if you pull out an Infinity Stone, it creates a branch off. Mm-hmm. But then when you return it, it goes back into the branch of time. And so what I think is going to be explained is that this storyline is from one of those branch off universes. That's what I think is coming. Because again, people want to see them connected to the films. And I actually think giving them more freedom actually kind of restrained them a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, and here I have a question for you. If there was one character that you could bring back now that we're into the multiverse, if there was a character you could bring back from the previous seasons, who would you bring back and why?
I was just thinking about this earlier. I'm really hoping that they bring back Cal, Sky's dad, because again, I was watching that season finale of season 2, and he was the perfect villain, I think, for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because he was scary in the first half of the season, and then he mellowed off into this kind of almost comical villain, and then it ends up they wipe his memory so that he goes back to being a civilized person. But I thought he was a good character because of the nature of the show. The show can't take itself too seriously because you have kind of ridiculous characters in it. And so that's one of the problems I have with the show is that sometimes they try to take themselves super serious and then you can't take it seriously at all. And then sometimes they don't take the show seriously enough. Like, I'm going to use the last season, that episode with Fitzsimmons, the one that was like the Fitzsimmons episode where...
where they're in their mind?
Yeah, and for the majority of that episode, I was intrigued. And then that ending where evil Fitz or Dr. Fitz or the doctor makes out with Simmons' like horror version of herself. First of all, I knew it was coming, and then second, when it happened, I was like, they did not just go there. They blew up. They had a good thing going, and then they blew it up. But it's just indicative of the entire season is they can't just commit to a story. They have a good thing going, and they bounce off and they do something in the total opposite direction, and I'm done. I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you saw the news that Agent Carter might be making an appearance in season 7.
Oh, I did see. You actually told me about it. That is exciting.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess season 7 they're going to be going back in time, or I guess they are technically back in time already at the end of season 6, and so. Allegedly, Agent Carter and her boyfriend/husband, or I don't know at what point in the show they'll be in, but apparently those two are at the very least are going to be in the shows because their names have been spotted on various social media lists of who the cast was in that in season 7. So I'm excited for that because they just destroyed Agent Carter season 2 and blew that up, and we didn't get like a decent solid ending to that. So I'm hoping that they at least wrap up Agent Carter in a nice bow. But the two failed shows put together, like two wrongs aren't going to make a right kind of thing. So I have a feeling that this is going to be a disaster, but I'm holding out hope. Maybe I'll see some nice costumes from the 40s. I don't know.
Well, see, this is what this tells me though, is because I didn't realize it was that. I thought she was going to appear like in flashbacks like she did in season 2, I think. Yeah. I didn't realize it was that. So you telling me this, or that you hypothesizing this, this makes me think that the new people think that they're the X-Files. Because I don't know if you've ever watched the X-Files, but the creator of X-Files, Chris Carter, he wrote another show called Millennium, and it was X-Files, of course, is about these detectives who solve supernatural or alien mysteries, and it has like this huge arc, blah blah blah. And then Millennium was this detective who was a genius, and he was really good because he was a psychiatrist, so they would use him to track down like killers and stuff. He was a former FBI agent, but he left and joined the Millennium Group, and then you find out that the Millennium Group is actually a cult, yada yada yada. So Millennium ended without resolution, and so they concluded it in the X-Files, and which was actually a decent conclusion. And see, this is what I was thinking with this whole multiverse, and we're going into computers, which I did like the framework, but still,
Yeah.
Going into space. They're trying to be a lighthearted version of the X-Files, and you just can't do that, I don't think. But anyway, one last thing I will say, I hope I am wrong, because I do want the show to go out with a bang. I don't want it to go out kind of like The Office, where the last 2 seasons were garbage, and then the finale was good, but you were kind of like, yeah, but all the stuff leading up to it was a mess.
Yeah.
So I do want the show to go out on a bang, so I want it to succeed. My expectations are very low.
Yeah, my expectations are in the toilet at this point. The only thing that made me excited is that they thought, yeah, let's bring Haley Atwell back, and let's bring a couple of those characters back and try and fix those things, or at least give them kind of a one last chance to wrap up the show, kind of a thing. So I am excited about that, but given the state of season 2 of Agent Carter was so bad, and sometimes the TV humor that you find in both of those shows is just, it's not even slapstick, it's just dumb.
Yeah.
I guess that's why I'm just really nervous about what they're going to do with that. But
well, also too, I think that's kind of Joss Whedon's influence a little bit, is because I like him as a movie director, and I even like some of his shows, even his short-lived ones. Mm-hmm. But he brings, on his shows, I've noticed, he brings a lot of 90s humor that just doesn't translate well. And it's like, okay, we moved on from Buffy and Angel. Let's, you know what I mean? And I think that's a part of it. But anyway, any last thoughts on that before we move on to Star Wars?
The only thing about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I just have to say, just please bring back, it's kind of going back to what I said at the beginning. The basic thing that worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. and that made the show successful was, first, Coulson had popularity, which was what springboarded the beginning of the show, and then second, the conflict between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. And the whole reason I came back to watching the show after having given it up for a year and a half was because they brought back that conflict. And so they need to have that conflict again, and that's what I'm hoping they can reintroduce into season 7. That will make the show have, I don't know, a more substantive conflict than some of these other ones. So those are my final thoughts in Tommy Lauren, whatever fashion. Those are my final thoughts on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 7.
Well, we'll just have to wait to see next fall. Arriving next fall.
Right.
All right, so now we're to another Disney property, Star Wars. Now it's officially Disney. It's not just that they own Lucasfilms, not that they bought out Fox. They actually have complete rights. We're to Star Wars. So
I have a question before we start. Does that mean that now they can have the Fox logo at the front of the movies again? Or?
Yeah. They own it outright. A lot of people are I hate it because I don't think it is this yet, but a lot of people are screaming monopoly because they bought, basically there was 5 big companies and Disney just bought out one of them, Fox.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are screaming monopoly. I don't think it's a monopoly yet.
Yeah.
But if it ever comes to that, we'll wait and see. But yeah, they have actually outright bought. They own all the properties. They own FX. They own FX2. They own Hulu because Fox had a controlling stake in Hulu. So, but yeah, they can put the logo in front of the Star Wars now.
Boy, what a time we live in.
Yeah. Sony's desperately trying to compete. I know this is kind of an aside, but Sony's trying to compete. They're buying up smaller studios. They just bought Funimation. I shouldn't say they just bought. They bought Funimation, which does the English dubs of Japanese film and television. So Sony's desperately trying to catch up. They bought the rights to Valiant Comics, which is a rival to DC and Marvel. They're making Vin Diesel Bloodshot. I don't know if you saw the trailer to that, but that's a Valiant property. Okay. So hopefully that means that they're going to surrender Spider-Man if Bloodshot is a success. Right. That's like the one thing I'm on Disney's side. Give Disney Spider-Man. That's like I'm on board with that.
Yeah, I mean at this point it doesn't make sense not to. The other thing is they're going to be putting Netflix out of business with Disney Plus because they took all of their Disney properties away from Netflix. They're putting them on Disney Plus. They're making all these new shows with all their very successful characters from their various franchises, and
they're pulling stuff out of the vault.
Yeah. I mean, they're playing dirty. They're like, we're gonna put you out of business, Netflix. Go, and then any property that, or I don't know, capital that Netflix still has, Disney can just say, we'll pay you royalties. Just send that over here. We got plenty of cash. We got plenty of cash.
They have cash to burn. I was talking when I was on Groupthink podcast. Mm-hmm. This is something, and again, this is an aside. We'll get back to Star Wars, but one thing Disney has figured out is, now I'm going to use this movie as an example because I haven't seen it, but I can't take my family to see The Green Room because I know if I took my nephew or niece to it, they'll be bored out of their gourd. Mm-hmm. But I may go see it myself or rent it at Redbox. But Disney has figured out, but I can take my niece and nephew to the Lion King remake, and even if I don't like it, they're going to like it because it's talking animals. Mm-hmm. So they have instead of just one ticket like the Green Room had, it has 3. And I use 2 movies that I haven't seen on purpose because I don't want to comment on the quality of them. But that's Disney has figured that out, and I think that is why they're able to buy up all these major properties like Indiana Jones and Star Wars. That is to their advantage, and no one else has quite figured it out. That's why they're still putting out movies like The Beach Bum, which I haven't seen it. I'm sure it's funny, but no one has quite figured out that this could be. Maybe this is why people actually like to go to the movies with their families.
So Star Wars.
Star Wars.
I assume you watched the trailer 40,000 times, like everyone.
Yes, I watched it. I did watch it. I only watched the trailer for the trailer once.
So how did you feel? How did it make you feel, Jacob?
Well, it made me feel meh.
Yeah.
Just being honest, it did not have the amp that even the trailer for The Last Jedi had whenever I saw it.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if it's because of The Last Jedi, but I just was not impressed, and especially reading some of the leaks I've seen on Reddit, I'm not impressed with what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean, my feel from it, I mean, if you take The Last Jedi bias aside, I looked at Rey as a character in that trailer, and I thought, I know approximately the same amount of information about her now 3 movies in, that I did at the beginning before The Force Awakens came out. I learned nothing from the first 2 movies about her. And the difference is now I care less. Mm-hmm. So that's a problem. Like, nobody knows anything about these characters. There's I don't have a stake in this. Like, you can put all the flashy, graphics and the special effects and everything. You can put all that, and she's got a new outfit, and so-and-so has a lightsaber, and Kylo Ren is standing in the rain looking distressed, and his hair is wet, and that's just, it's not going to make me excited. I'm not excited about this. There's nothing to get me, like, I'm excited to go and watch a bad movie so I can complain about it on YouTube. That's the only reason I'm excited to go watch this movie. And I think that's where a lot of fans are too, because people are making a living. Some people are making a living off of YouTube just trashing this film because it's become a franchise to trash The Last Jedi now. There are people who have quit their jobs. I was reading about one guy on YouTube. He was able to quit his job because he's making so much money off of YouTube and his commentary just because of what happened with The Last Jedi and his video going viral. So I guess it's just really frustrating that that's what Star Wars has been reduced to. It's going to make a lot of money because people are going to go see it so they can go home and trash it.
Right.
Is that what Disney was going for?
Well, and it's one thing because like The Last Jedi split the fandom. Mm-hmm. So like when the prequels came out, you don't like the prequels. Mm-hmm. I do, but it was always like a fun debate. It wasn't like we got super passionate and we're calling each other names and and to that point. But The Last Jedi, not The Force Awakens so much. It's on its own. It's kind of an average movie. It's not, but it's not as bad. The Last Jedi is a bad movie.
Yeah.
And to the extent that it's actually split the fandom, where now if you're either on one side and you're on the other. And apparently there's like a segment of people who don't like Rogue One, which is fine, but
I think I know which person we're referring to on Twitter.
Yes, exactly. But Rogue One at least didn't divide the fandom. It's again, it's like a fun debate whether you like Rogue One or not. But I feel like The Last Jedi really split the fandom, and it really harmed it. No other franchise has this. Like there's people like the Alien franchise is a good example of this. There's people like me who like Alien 3. Not very many of us, but we still like Alien and Aliens, and we don't. But it's not a splitting point for fans of that. Of course, it doesn't have the same type of fandom, but I'm just using that as an example. Like again, going back to the prequels, and I really feel like The Rise of Skywalker is J.J. Abrams really trying to pick up the pieces of this, and watching the first trailer was okay. It didn't get me excited, but I thought, oh, it kind of has some cool imagery in it at least. I have no idea and I will admit, the Emperor's Laugh made me excited. I know it's just a ploy to pull fans like me back in. I'll fall for it all the way, shamelessly. But then this final trailer, which we all know isn't really the final trailer, it comes out, and I'm just like, I don't even know what the plot is. Yeah. So, at least with The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens trailer, we knew what the plot of the films were. We don't know what the plot of this movie is at all. I mean, we can guess from the Reddit leaks, but leaks aren't always accurate.
Right. I mean, the problem there is it feels like they're starting over.
Right.
Like, it feels, because at the end of Empire Strikes Back, you knew, okay, well, Luke just found out some pretty terrible information. He just lost his hand and had to have it replaced. Han has been kidnapped, and so we knew at least he's going to have to be rescued. There were places that the story could go, and fans could hypothesize where it's going to go. At the end of The Last Jedi, they destroyed everything that we talked about. And so what now? Like, Rey doesn't have a mandate to go and find Kylo Ren.
We'd like to say people date.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off. Continue.
Just but like, there's no reason for anything else to happen now, other than they're gonna rebuild the resistance or the rebellion or whatever. Apparently, there's 3 years. It's a 3-year in advance thing, like it's a time jump, which
they have to do that though,
I guess, but like, I don't even know why. Like, if we're already deep into this pit of disaster, now we're going to add 3 years more. Like, I don't know how 3 years is going to fix anything. I just really don't.
And I agree. And this is my understanding of it is, I know people are in denial about this, but at least with the prequels, George Lucas had like a timeline. He may not have had every movie figured out, but he at least knew where he was going. We're getting to Darth Vader. This is the Darth Vader origin story. What Kathleen Kennedy, and we know this because she hired 3 different directors for these movies originally. It was J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and Colin Trevorrow. At least she just said, okay, J.J., you're making the Han Solo movie. Ryan, you're making the Luke Skywalker movie. Colin, you're making the Princess Leia movie. But then of course Colin Trevorrow left. There's been disputes about why. I've heard it was because he saw a rough cut of The Last Jedi and stormed into Kathleen Kennedy and called it a POS. And so they fired him and used the Book of Brian, which was a movie he did that wasn't well received, as an excuse. But no, I'm inclined, obviously, because they kept Rian Johnson on after his terrible films. So I don't think that was the reason. But anyway, that was a mistake. They should have said, okay, this is we want to get to Rey and Kylo being the main characters. This is our arc. We're going to close the Skywalker saga, and we want to spin off the new saga. But they didn't do that. They just said,
make a movie called The Rise of Skywalker to close the Skywalker.
Well, I think this is my theory. I think the Skywalkers are gonna replace the Jedi. That's what I think is coming.
Okay. That's interesting.
Like the Knights of Ren have replaced the Sith, I think the Skywalkers are gonna replace the Jedi.
That's interesting, and that would have been great if they did that in the first movie.
Thank you.
Why?
We're not disagreeing at all here.
we're gonna end the franchise with the good part that you should have led with. It's like, you should have led with that. Oh my God!
Also, this just shows how bad of a filmmaker Rian Johnson is. Mm-hmm. Is Carrie Fisher, R.I.P. She passed away before the release of The Last Jedi,
mm-hmm.
and
it might have been a benefit. The Last Jedi would have brought on her death had she seen it. So
right, but I think even if he thought, okay, I'm not going to kill her off because it's disrespectful to the family, he should have kept Luke alive.
Yeah,
because now he puts J.J. Abrams in this rock and a hard place where he has to bring back Lando because The Rise of Skywalker was supposed to be Leia's film, and now he's put them in kind of this sticky situation. I was reading online that there was this leaker on 4chan who said that one of the producers banned smack talk about The Last Jedi because apparently all the actors, Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, Adam Bodega, and who plays Poe, Oscar Isaacs, they were all talking bad about it on the set, and one of the producers actually said it. From now on, when you guys talk bad about it, we're gonna take it out of your pay. It was like a big deal. Apparently, it was a guy who claimed to be a grip. Who was on set all the time.
Well, I'm glad that even the actors acknowledge that what they're doing is pretty bad, and I just wonder if there was
Adam Bodega. I meant John Ortega. Sorry.
I'm just wondering if there's ever going to be a point. I'm sure they have non-disclosure agreements, but I'm wondering if there's ever going to be a point where they can actually talk about, this movie sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering. I mean, Brie Larson liked it, so that ought to tell you how bad it was. I mean, I'm not a Captain Marvel hater, but I actually thought it was better than. I thought it was in between. I didn't think it was good. I did think the special effects in it were really good, but she can't do humor, that's for sure. But one thing I thought about was she has very poor taste in film. So I was kind of chuckling when she was saying how much she liked it. I was like, oh, well, that explains.
Yeah.
I think because she was trying to defend, what is it, A Wrinkle in Time?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I haven't seen it yet, but I remember you were giving me your rundown of it.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, that's a total rabbit trail. I didn't see the new one. I can just tell you, the book was one of those. I talked about this when I hosted your show about when I get a good book that's that good, I will burn through it, and it's like somebody eating too much candy. I will just eat the thing. Like I finished all 3 Hunger Games in like a week. It's just I burned through everything. So that was one of those books that I just burned through. I don't know if you've read the book.
Not A Wrinkle in Time, no.
Okay, you should read it. It's a really short read, very easy. But it's a really, really fantastic book, and it's actually an anti-socialism book, because the whole deal is her dad gets kidnapped by these bad guys, and she's an insecure, like 12-year-old girl, the main character, and she's having to deal with her insecurities while she gets thrown off into space, basically, or off into another dimension to find her dad with her friends. And she ends up, not to spoil, I'm going to spoil it a little bit, but she ends up on this planet, and the planet is filled with houses that are all the same, children all dressed the same, bouncing the ball outside with like they're playing basketball outside, and they're bouncing the ball in rhythm with each other because everything is the same, and it's being run by this tyrant. And I won't spoil any more of it for you, but it's the most anti-communist book you will ever read. And there was, I think it's 1990s version or early 2000s version of the movie that's pretty it's pretty well done. It doesn't capture quite the same feel that the book does, but it's still pretty well done. I think the ending was what was like kind of milquetoast. But anyway, so that's why it would shock me that they would actually even attempt to make a good version of that movie, and it doesn't shock me at all that they would try to manipulate it and change it to mean something that it doesn't, because it's an anti-communist book.
Right.
At the end of the day, whether the author meant it to be that or not, it's an anti-communist book. So that's why I knew when they were injecting all the social justice warrior stuff into it, I'm not even going to watch this. They're not even going to have the essence of the story in it now. So completely sidetracked.
That's all right. That's why we're here. We should just, whenever you and I do a show together, we should just call it Sidebar. Like every episode, Sidebar Part 1. That's what we should do. But
have our own separate podcast of just the two of us, and we'll call it Sidebar.
Yeah, Sidebar. But anyway, back to Star Wars. That was a real problem in The Last Jedi, is they put a lot of social justice warrior stuff in it. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I always found, and whether you like the prequels or not, you can't deny that the prequels brought in more fans. Mm-hmm. And maybe some of them, maybe some of them, I'm even willing to concede, they saw the prequels and then watched the originals and thought, oh, wow, I don't like the prequels anymore because the originals are so good. I'm even willing to concede that. Yeah. And I feel like The Last Jedi brought in a bunch of fans who just went, there's only The Last Jedi. Because it is a standalone film. It's not, except for the connecting scene in The Force Awakens, it doesn't connect to The Force Awakens, really. And I think even other people have pointed that out, is it doesn't connect to that film at all. It just kind of starts on its own. It has its own ending, and really, its ending could even be kind of a conclusion. Like you could end it and leave, and it's just one of those open-ended movies where you just don't know. Like there's no. To me, I thought, why are they even making a third film in this trilogy? Because this one just kind of closes everything. They just go off on the Millennium Falcon. Spoiler alert, but I don't care. So anyway, that's that. I thought we'd play a little game, and so what I thought was I would tell you a leak that I had read, and you could tell me if you think it's true or not. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good idea, especially because I've heard a lot of leaks, and I'm sure that they're similar to the ones you've heard. So I'm excited. Let's do this.
Okay. All right, so one of the leaks is that this isn't a leak. Everyone knows Matt Smith has been cast in the film. Mm-hmm. We don't know his identity yet. They haven't released his character. One of the leaks, now this one actually came from the 4chan guy, and for those of you who are listening, I don't go on 4chan. Someone was reposting his content on Reddit, but they said the source is from 4chan. I just want to make that abundantly clear. I don't hate Jews. Okay. Now, anyway, one of the things he said was that Matt Smith plays a younger Palpatine in a flashback. Oh. And in fact, Ian McDiarmid is barely in the movie, and it's mostly Matt Smith. I'm curious, do you think that's true, and what's your reaction to that?
I mean, I think because Disney has such a bad track record with Star Wars, I think it has every possibility of being true. And there's also like this fad going around nowadays where we want to see a young X, especially with Disney. Now we're doing a young Cruella de Vil movie with Emma Stone. Like we're doing a young this, we're doing a young that. We're gonna CGI Princess Leia back into her young form. Disney is obsessed with this, so I actually think that could be possibly true, especially because they left a lot of questions open in the prequels about his history and his backstory, and for heaven's sakes, they love the backstory. They will sacrifice the integrity of any plot and any going forward for that backstory. That backstory is the only thing that matters to Disney and a lot of other franchises these days as well.
Okay, here's the second one. Mm-hmm. Now, Lando Calrissian is obviously a character. He's been in all the trailers, even the trailer for the trailer. And one of the leaks is there's that they're going to introduce his daughter as a character. I can't remember which actress they say because it's got, the cast list is so long, so her name escapes me. And one of the there's that party planet you briefly see in the trailer that they're going to, in that sequence in the film, they're going to meet Lando's daughter, and that's one of the reasons why he comes back. What are your thoughts?
So the thing about Lando is there was a
hashtag thing about Lando.
Yes, the thing about there was an issue that occurred at the beginning of the promotions for The Force Awakens, because they started releasing all the merch. They started releasing the Lego sets. They started releasing all the books and all that good stuff. So one of the problems they had was on the merch it said Finn Calrissian, as if to suggest that Finn is Lando's offspring. So I don't know if the whole daughter thing is accurate, and I also don't know if because of that error that was made on with those Lego sets and whatever else they had that printed on, I don't know if they've scrapped the idea of him being related to Lando in any way, but I think there's going to be some, whether they bring on another character that they say is his daughter, or whether it ends up being that Poe is the missing child that was taken away and forced to serve in the First Order, which makes no sense because they defeated the Empire. So why are these things happening now? I don't know. It's just stupid. But so I don't know. It's an either or on that one.
All right, so. Last one, in the first trailer, you see a dark Rey with which I actually thought this was cool. My fellow Daily Wire writer, Paul Bois, he thought it was dumb. I actually thought it was cool because I'm a sucker for lightsabers. But she had that split lightsaber, and it was a dark Rey. Now, there was a rumor going around that she was a clone. And that was going to be Rey's real backstory, was that she was actually a clone conceived from the Emperor's DNA or some other Jedi or Sith, and that's why she was dumped. And so this evil Rey. However, the leaks have actually said that Rey goes on a vision quest, and she sees a dark version of herself, and that's the one we saw in the first trailer. So not a clone Rey, but I guess a Force vision dark Rey. So what do you think about that?
I think that's probably the most far-fetched. The clone / DNA thing, I think, is probably the most far-fetched. But as far as like her going on a quest and seeing herself as dark, I think that's standard Star Wars operating procedure right there. But I do, just kind of bouncing off, I want to ask you about some of the leaks I heard.
Yeah, please do.
Mine are pretty bad. I got them all from my sister, who allegedly read a leaked version of the script on...
Probably the same one I read.
Possibly. So apparently the movie ends, and spoiler alerts, I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently the movie ends with Force Ghost Luke and Force Ghost Leia coming back and defeating the Emperor, because Force Ghosts can now physically destroy things, as we saw with Yoda. And so what do you think about that atrocity?
I think that, again, that's Disney trying to save face. But I do, in a stupid way, I think that's a terrible idea. I actually hadn't heard that one. That's a new one. Another can of worms that Rian Johnson opened that is dumb and ridiculous. So no, I think that would be dumb if that is the conclusion of the film. So
that one actually worries me, especially since seeing the trailer, because at the end of the trailer, it's Luke saying the Force will be with you, and then Leia saying always, and it's focusing in on Rey, and so that's why that worries me, because it's all knowing that leak and then watching the trailer, I'm like, is this really what we're doing now? Are we really making the Force Ghost thing is such a cheat. The only reason why they brought it into Star Wars in the first place was so that Luke would have somebody to kind of mentor him and kind of say, here's what's going on, and here's why this is happening. And Well, I don't even think it was brought in. It wasn't even brought in. No, it was. It was introduced in Empire Strikes Back.
That's right.
I'm trying to remember at what point. I can't even remember at what point in the movie Obi-Wan first appears to him.
It's when he's in the cold. Or he actually hears his voice.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Right after he disappears when Darth Vader slices him.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, but they introduced that as kind of almost to be Luke's conscience. Shall we? Like he was the guy telling Luke, "You shouldn't leave. You're just gonna get yourself into a bad position." Or he'll be the one to say, he's almost like an angel that comes to fill in like to tell him you shouldn't do this, and then, oh, by the way, your sister who you made out with, yeah, she's actually your sister.
They didn't really technically make out. People said that she kissed him like
it's closer than it should be.
Yes, 1000% agree. But people keep saying they made out. They didn't make out. She just kissed him kind of strong. But anyway, yeah, I do see your point. So hit me with another one. I'm ready.
That was the worst one. I'm trying to think of what was.
Yeah, that's even worse than the ones I've heard.
I'm trying to think. There was I mean, so the other theory I heard about Rey's parentage was that the whole Kylo Ren saying your parents were nothing, and then somebody fills in, but that doesn't mean your grandfather wasn't nothing. And so there's the suggestion that Palpatine had children or a child that then had a child named Rey. And so that's that theory right there. I don't know if you think that's more legitimate than the clone theory.
I actually think that would be fine. But it's the reason I said reacted, oh my gosh, it's because they said that, because prior to Disney's purchase of them, they had the expanded universe. Mm-hmm. And that was a thing in the expanded universe. And then Disney, it was a whole quest that Luke went on and handled was, I don't think they were children directly, but Palpatine called them his children. They were like secret apprentices that he had besides Darth Vader. In fact, Luke's wife, Mara Jade, was one of them. So the reason I say, oh my gosh, is like after what is old is past, and now you have to take what now they're going to take from the expanded universe, which they rejected. So
they've done it on multiple counts already. They've taken obscure or less popular elements from or even entire plot lines, and they've pulled them in from the expanded universe, put them in their movies, and said it's totally original, guys.
I know, right?
It's fine.
And that's what's so funny is the animated show Star Wars Rebels. Mm-hmm. Which I haven't watched Resistance, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, I think. I haven't watched that one because I heard it's awful. Mm-hmm. But what's funny is Rebels actually introduced elements, like I think Clone Wars before it even, they introduced elements from the expanded universe, but in a way that was appropriate. It was like an adaptation, but not a direct adaptation. It's like they took the elements and like they introduced what's his name? Admiral Thrawn. They introduced Admiral Thrawn in Star Wars Rebels. And even though it wasn't his arc from the books, they still did a good job. They got his character right. They got a great voice actor to voice him. So, yeah, that's why I think that's kind of funny in that. So I'm going to hit you with one more, and because I'm really curious what you think about this one. So C-3PO clearly dies at some point.
Uh-huh.
But in the scene behind him, there's a battle droid from the prequels. You just barely see it. Uh-huh. I can't remember what type, but there is a battle droid. Mm-hmm. One of the leaks is that R2-D2 preserves his memory and puts it in one of these battle droids, and he helps at some point save the day in this battle droid form. So I can't remember what scene exactly, but at some point they're like pinned down, and then he appears in this battle droid and helps save them, and he tells them that he's C-3PO. What do you think about that leak?
that leak is like everything that people disliked about the prequels wrapped in one. That's not, no. Oh, that's bad. And I feel like they would do something dumb like that too. Like I feel like C-3PO has just been I mean, he and R2D2 were like central players in the other movies, and they're just kind of sidekicks for merchandise now. And they haven't done anything. They haven't gone on any of the missions. They haven't. Yeah, they literally haven't done anything. And so I just don't like. I don't even think of them as the same characters from the other one because they were useful in the other one, and they're just not here. Yeah. Wow. That's bad.
Well, yeah, that sounds. I hate to say it, but it sounds par for the course.
It really.
One thing people were getting mad at me is when, because Star Wars Direct, it's a Twitter account that I follow, and they share Star Wars news. They took the clip of 3PO saying, "I want to take one last look at my friends," and turned it into not a GIF, but just like a clip, like a 3-second clip. And so I think you probably saw this. I retweeted and said 3PO doesn't know any of these characters.
I know, yeah.
And people were like, "But we don't know how much time has passed." And like, it doesn't matter. It's like me as the viewer, I don't know any of these characters, and it's been 2 freaking movies.
Yes.
So it does. From a narrative perspective, it's bad.
Well, I know you said that was going to be the last, the last leak.
Well,
but
for me, if you have one, go for it.
I have one more.
Okay.
So, again, one from my sister that she read that apparently the movie opens with young Luke training young Leia. So CGI Luke training CGI Leia, how to use a lightsaber and how to become a Jedi. And again, something that we would have liked to see in the first one. And then she quits Jedi training because she's pregnant. That theory pissed my brother off because he's like, she was literally fighting with a lightsaber in the Thrawn series in the extended universe while she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And so he's pissed about that. But what are your thoughts on that theory?
I think it's, I actually wouldn't be surprised because an early leak of the cast list had the girl from Rogue One who played young Leia but CGI had her name on it. And so, but that one, it kind of evaporated. Later they took it out. But yeah, that was a thing. Panic in the streets and everything. So that actually wouldn't surprise me that much. But I actually don't have a problem. No offense to your brother, I actually don't have a problem with Leia saying, "Hey, I'm going to quit my Jedi training because I'm pregnant." That doesn't bother me so much. But again, it goes back to why didn't we see that? Because she's not a princess anymore in The Force Awakens. She's a general. Why isn't she using a lightsaber if she knows how to use one? Yeah. I mean, that would have. And also, why did she send poor Han off to find their son? Because clearly he has a bigger affinity for his mother. Because he in the Last Jedi opening, he has an opportunity to kill her. He doesn't take it, but he lets other people do it. Typical millennial, letting someone else take the blame. So, anyway, so that's my take on that one. That's actually the first time I heard that one. That one wasn't on the leak Now I didn't read a leaked script. I read a leaked plot summary. So, but it was like a full Wikipedia one. It wasn't like it wasn't just like a quick summary. It was like a full story description. So I did not read that one. And the one I read, the opening was the Luke's sacrifice sparked a new rebellion. So they're not called the Resistance in The Rise of Skywalker anymore. They're called the Rebellion. So
okay. It's Disney trying to save face and we're sorry, we take it back. Not all of it, but we take it back. Just please give us your money, please. Dollars.
Well, it's kind of funny because I think it was Emily Zanotti, also Daily Wire colleague. She posted a meme of like a person with like I think from Rick and Morty, and it said and the caption said, "Last Jedi burned me out of Star Wars. I'm probably not even going to go see the new one in theaters." And then it had like the logo for The Rise of Skywalker, and then below it it's the GIF, also from Rick and Morty, I think, of the kid going, "Shut up and give me your money, take my money." It's like that's exactly my reaction. Like, I'm going to go see it. They're going to get my money, but I'm not going to be happy about it unless it's good. J.J. Abrams, I think he's a mediocre director, so maybe he'll pull a rabbit out of his hat. We'll or out of his mystery box. We'll have to wait and see.
There you go. Wow. I mean, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be. I don't even know. It's such a shame they had to destroy Star Wars like this. It's sad to see it end like this.
And what's worse is there are rumors of massive reshoots. Like, because they did that with Rogue One. A lot of people don't realize this, but Rogue One originally wasn't meant to be a narrative film. It was meant to be an anthology film, so it would be like 15 to 20-minute vignettes of these characters that would all just connect at the end. But then Gareth Edwards got a hold of it, and he thought, oh, I can just connect everything. So he made a narrative film. But Disney still felt like they needed to, but they had his second unit director, I think, do some reshoots. And there were rumors that they totally changed the movie. But then later, the guy who played director Kent Krennic, he later said, oh, no, it's not as big a deal as people are making it. They just felt like there was some plot holes. So they just put scenes, they just reshot some scenes so there'd be no plot holes. So, but I'm hearing for The Rise of Skywalker, it's not like that. They are doing massive reshoots, and it's actually making some of the actors grumpy. Kind of, Terminator Rise of the Machines, or not Rise of the Machines. What was it? Not Genesis, the one before, the one in between. I can't remember what it's called, but the one with Christian Bale. They had to do massive reshoots on that one. And that's the one where Christian Bale had his famous freak out that he has never been forgiven for. Yeah. That's, that was what caused that freak outs, was they kept having him come back for reshoots, and he hated doing it. And so I'm hearing, so the rumors are that that's happening right now with The Rise of Skywalker, and it comes out in December, and the movies may not even be done. Yeah. Which is also what happened to Justice League. So which is Warner Brothers, of course. Yeah. But it seems like they're pulling a page from it. So. Yeah,
I mean, it's just showing all the signs of an impending disaster, and I'm not happy with it. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be really happy with it. I think we'll be lucky if it's a mediocre movie.
Yeah, I agree.
That's just sad from Star Wars, so that's
it is sad because it's Star Wars is, I'm also a Star Trek fan, I'm also a Marvel Studios fan, but Star Wars was what made me want to be a film buff, I guess. It was probably, especially Empire Strikes Back. Yeah. Love those films. And like I said, I love the prequels. I love Rogue One. The only movies I really don't like are The Last Jedi and The Holiday Special. I don't think I've never met a single person who likes The Holiday Special. So, but anyway, I feel like it's taken a nosedive for me.
Yeah. It's too bad. It's just too bad. That's kind of how I feel about Star Wars. So
yeah, and so fast, so hard, so fast. Like it wasn't like you're watching. I don't know if you ever watched the show, but it's not like you're watching Heroes, and you just or I'll use a better example. It's not like you're watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, and you're watching it kind of slowly go bad, and then you're to the point where you're just like this. Yeah. Or you go, oh, but Star Wars, it was just like, whoa. I hate it now, Yeah. No, I'm not to hate level yet. We'll have to wait and see how Rise of Skywalker does.
Yeah, it's just I just am at a loss for words at this point, because they had such a wonderful good thing that everybody loved, even despite the prequels. The prequels were not franchise damaging. They were, because they were like,
they were so standalone too.
Yeah, you could pretend like those didn't exist, and if the original Star Wars was your thing, then you could keep that's your thing, and they didn't get damaged by the prequels. If you like the prequels, then you can like both of the things, but like you said, they were standalone. Like Rogue One, also standalone. You can pretend like that doesn't exist. You can pretend like it's a fan fiction. I personally feel, because there are still some plot holes, that it's more of a fan fiction than anything. But
that's how I feel about Solo. I feel like Solo is fan fiction, but it's at least decent fan fiction.
Yeah, so Solo had a shower scene with Chewbacca in hand. I don't know. That's a hard one. But I didn't think, I was expecting Solo to be worse than it was, and so I guess that's why I went into it thinking it was going to be really bad, and it wasn't as bad as I expected. my siblings went into it with me saying, it's not as bad as you think. They went into it with that expectation, and then they hate it. So go into it thinking it's going to be garbage, and then it'll be one step up from just garbage. But it's just The Last Jedi was a franchise killer. It was you can't unsee it, and still like it just damages the franchise as a whole. You can't pretend like it's not a part of the series, and it's just a shame. I do want to give like extended universe for those of you. I want to end this on a high note. For those of you who would like to read real Star Wars stories and what happens after, go read the extended universe stuff. The Thrawn series is fantastic. These are the books. Like my brother was really
giving a thumbs up. She's totally right.
Yeah, my brother was really upset about the Last Jedi, and so I gave him. I let him read one of my Thrawn books, or I think I might have gotten it for his birthday last year or something. And he burned through that. Then when I moved back up here and my book series were more readily available to him, he took the other two, finished those, and he said, "Please get me those for Christmas." So those are my brother approved. Not that you care, but they're my brother approved books. They're really, really good, and they give you the satisfaction that you wish you had from the Star Wars movies that we have now, and like any good millennial, to be passionate about your Star Wars movies is to be human. So go read the extended universe. You've got some great stories. You find out all about Luke and Leia's offspring. You find out about Leia actually has communication with Anakin's Force ghost at one point, and that's a really tragic story that I'm still sad about. Not that sad, but there's a lot of good stuff. So people should check out the extended universe for sure.
And I'm going to end on the high note. I'm going to actually totally agree with Kelly, especially because one thing, if you read, so like I was a big fan of the Boba Fett trilogy, which was a spinoff of not the Thrawn series, but it's really a spinoff of Return of the Jedi. But it's about Boba Fett. He survives the Sarlacc pit and all this. And yeah, I know basically what happens, they do it where when he falls in, whenever they blow up Jabba's palace, they actually he actually has a grenade, and that's what caused the explosion, not Luke and Leia and Han's interference. And so, but he's incredibly injured. Another bounty hunter finds him. And then they go like kind of on this journey together, and then there's flashbacks to Boba Fett's early days and all this. And it's a really great series, but here's the best thing about it. If you read a book trilogy you don't like if you don't like the Thrawn trilogy, I think you're crazy if you don't, but if you don't, and if you don't like the Boba Fett trilogy, you can pretend they don't exist. Yeah. And The Last Jedi, like as Kelly pointed out, you can't, but definitely check it out. I would even recommend the old Dark Horse comics, not the Marvel, other than the Vader series, the original Vader miniseries that Marvel did, not the one that came out just after The Force Awakens, not the recent one, that one. And I recommend the Dark Horse comics as well. They go a totally different direction than the books, though. Just Luke actually turns evil for a time in the Dark Horse comics, but it's a really good series. I think it's called the Dark Jedi Stories. The Dark Jedi Saga is what it's called. I highly recommend those as well. So for you new fans, all you have to do is look. We have this new invention called Amazon, so definitely check those out. I love Amazon. Me too. This episode is not sponsored by Amazon, but it is. Sadly, we do not get that democracy dies in darkness money. So one final note, because I actually ran back in the house before I drove down here to shoot this episode. Everybody should go and buy Jacob's book. I have it right here. He actually gave me a copy, and it's a signed copy. So you can pick this up on Amazon, The Seven Royals, All Good Things by Jacob Berry. I haven't finished it, but I will be finishing it soon because it's in a stack of 6 books that I'm trying to read at once. So I just wanted to make sure I used it since I actually brought it down here. Oh, thank you. And also, for those of you listening, as you know, me and Kelly are co-hosting this, so it will appear on my podcast channel and on Kelly's. You can find me, youtube.com/c/Studio Jake. And of course, Kelly's is You Got It. And you can find her. She interviews interesting people. Aaron Bandler, and a bunch of other people. I won't go through the whole list, but you can also check out mine. I talk about more nerd stuff as well besides Star Wars. I talk about comic books, movies, books even. So definitely check us both out. You can follow Kelly on Twitter at WarriorWoman91 and me on Twitter at RealJacobAiry. So I think we're out of time.
I think we are. Thank you so much for doing this episode with me. Everybody should go and follow Jacob over at RealJacobAiry on his Twitter, and like and subscribe like this video, subscribe to Jacob's channel, subscribe to my channel, go over to either channel, which depending on which one you're watching this episode on, and hopefully we'll do this kind of a show again sometime, because it's really fun.
And I'll amend my usual sign off. Thank you so much for watching. Both Kelly and I will see all of you next time on You Got It or on Studio J. Thank you so much for watching.